Keanu sat on the red couch under the bright studio lights, the audience clapping and cheering as Graham Norton leaned forward with his usual mischievous grin and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the one and only Keanu Reeves." The crowd roared, Graham gestured playfully, and when the applause settled he added, "Thank you for being here, it's not often we manage to drag you away from your motorcycles." Keanu smiled politely and nodded, "Yeah, it's good to be here, Graham." Graham chuckled and leaned in, "Now, I've heard that you actually ride your bikes even when filming schedules are insane, is that true? Like you sneak out after shooting John Wick, just to clear your head." Keanu shrugged modestly, "I mean, yeah, it's not sneaking out, it's just, riding its freedom." The audience gave a small cheer, and Graham tapped his cue cards theatrically. "See, I don't know if that's freedom or madness. I'd rather take a cab. 2 wheels, no seatbelt, London traffic, no thank you." Keanu smirked, tilted his head, and said in his low calm voice, "You are dumb, Norton." The audience burst into laughter, not sure if it was a joke or a jab, and Graham froze theatrically with mock offense. "I'm sorry, what did you just call me?" Keanu leaned back and repeated with a small smile, "You're dumb, Norton." The room reacted with gasps and laughter. Graham raised his eyebrows. "Well, that's a first, being insulted within 5 minutes of my own show. Usually, the Americans take at least 10 minutes before calling me names." Keanu didn't break into his usual big grin. Instead he stayed composed. "I mean, you said writing is madness, that's dumb. You don't understand it, so you dismiss it." Graham placed a hand over his chest. "Ouch, this is turning into philosophy with Keanu Reeves versus sarcasm with Graham Norton. Folks, who do you think will win?" The audience clapped and laughed again. Graham tried to steer it playfully. "Okay, Mr. Coolbiker, tell me, what is so liberating about risking your life in London traffic?" Keanu gestured with his hands, searching for words. "It's not about risk, it's about being present. You feel the road, the air, you're not trapped in a box, you're part of the movement." Graham tilted his head. "Part of the movement, right? I'm part of the movement when I push a shopping trolley, but no one claps for me." The crowd laughed again. Keanu smiled faintly but then added, "It's not the same, Graham, but maybe you wouldn't understand." Graham leaned forward, narrowing his eyes in exaggerated drama. "So not only am I dumb, I also lack understanding. This is going swimmingly." Keanu finally chuckled lightly. "You asked?" Graham tried to lighten it further. "Yes, I did, and I regret everything. But fine, let's move on before you call me anything else. What about your arch motorcycle company? Tell me how that started." Keanu brightened slightly. "Yeah, with my friend Gard Hollinger, we wanted to build something beautiful, something that wasn't just transportation but an expression of engineering and art. It's like a sculpture you can ride." The audience clapped, and Graham quipped, "See, now that's poetic. Much nicer than just calling me dumb. Maybe lead with that next time." Keanu laughed a little but still kept his steady tone. "It's just the truth, Graham." The tension was subtle but noticeable. The audience felt it, half laughing at the awkward banter, half wondering if Keanu was actually serious. Graham tapped his cards again. "Well, speaking of truth, people always say you're the nicest man in Hollywood. The internet is filled with stories about you giving up your seat on the subway, helping stranded drivers, buying motorcycles for stuntmen. Is that all real, or have you hired a PR firm that's secretly filming your good deeds?" Keanu looked at him evenly. "I don't hire PR people. If people talk about me, that's their choice. I don't control it." Graham nodded. "Fair enough, but you see my problem? You've got this reputation as an angel in leather, so when you come on my show and the first thing you say is you're dumb, Norton, it's like catching Santa Claus swearing at the elves." The audience erupted again. Graham grinned at the crowd, but Keanu leaned forward. "Maybe Santa should speak the truth sometimes." That line hit strangely. The audience gave a mixed laugh and murmur. Graham raised his eyebrows again. "Well, I'll be honest, I wasn't prepared to be roasted by Keanu Reeves tonight. Usually, I'm the one doing the roasting." Keanu shrugged calmly. "Maybe it's good to change the script." Graham smirked. Dangerous words to a talk show host. There was tension, but it was entertaining tension, and the crowd could feel it. The polite Canadian star and the cheeky British host circling each other with humor that was getting just a bit sharper than expected. Graham finally leaned back in his chair, spread his arms wide, and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, I think tonight might be the night we find out whether Keanu Reeves is secretly a stand-up assassin of egos." The audience laughed. Keanu tilted his head and answered dryly, "I'll let the audience decide that." The conversation hung in the air, both funny and uneasy, exactly the kind of energy that keeps viewers hooked, and Graham, sensing it, smoothly tried to pivot to another topic, but the tension between them wasn't gone, it had only just started. The audience was buzzing from the strange energy that had unfolded, and Graham, trying to regain his footing, leaned forward again and said, all right, let's keep this civilized before Keanu takes me out like one of his movie villains. You've got this calm exterior, but inside I think there's a savage waiting to get out. Keanu smirked lightly. I don't need to pretend to be a savage, Graham. I just tell the truth. The crowd reacted with laughter and murmurs, Graham pointing at him theatrically. See? That's terrifying. The man delivers death lines like they're motivational quotes. He shuffled his cards again, then tossed them aside for effect. Okay, no cards, straight talk. People know you as mysterious, thoughtful, the guy who answers questions with silence, but I have to ask, do you enjoy interviews at all? Keanu tilted his head. Not always. Sometimes it feels like someone is trying to put me in a box, and I don't like boxes. Life isn't a script someone else wrote. Graham raised his eyebrows. Ouch, shots fired at talk shows everywhere. You do know you're on one right now. Keanu nodded calmly, yes. And I'm saying it here too. The audience laughed, but there was a ripple of discomfort, Graham tapping the arm of his chair and saying, well, I'll admit, usually my guests don't insult the very format that's paying for the champagne in the green room. Keanu didn't flinch, maybe they should. The crowd gave another half-gasp, half-laugh, and Graham leaned closer, lowering his voice for drama. Tell me honestly, Keanu, are you trying to get me fired on my own show? Keanu looked at him steadily. No, I'm just saying what I see. Graham threw up his hands in mock surrender. Ladies and gentlemen, the philosopher-assassin strikes again. Honestly, I feel like I'm in a Matrix sequel where the only bullet is verbal abuse. The audience roared with laughter. Graham smiled, but his eyes studied Keanu carefully. Let me try something else before you finish me off. You once said in an interview that grief and love are deeply connected. That's beautiful. Can you explain what you meant? Keanu took a breath, his tone shifting softer. When you lose someone you love, grief is the proof of that love. It never goes away because the love never goes away. They're the same coin. The audience grew quiet, some even sighing, Graham nodding. That's actually stunning. See, I try to make fun of you and then you drop something like that, and suddenly my job feels unnecessary. Keanu gave the faintest smile. Then maybe you should listen more. Graham clutched his chest dramatically again. Oh. Another blow. Someone call first aid. Keanu Reeves is destroying me live on air. The audience laughed again, but Keanu stayed steady. It's not destroying, it's honesty. Graham shook his head. If this is honesty, I'm terrified to see what you'd be like if you didn't like me. Keanu didn't answer immediately, letting the silence work, and the pause itself got the audience laughing nervously until Graham broke it. I swear, you could say nothing and it would still feel like a threat. That's talent. Keanu tilted his head again. Or truth. Graham exhaled, shaking his head with a grin. You've said truth more times than I've said alcohol on this show, and that's saying something. The audience erupted, but Graham wasn't finished. Okay, let's put the motorcycle talk aside. Let's talk John Wick. Everyone loves it, it's action, it's wild. You're covered in blood, you don't smile, and yet people cheer. What do you think that says about society? Keanu leaned forward. That maybe people want justice. They want someone to stand up when no one else will. It's not about violence, it's about balance. Graham squinted at him. Balance? You shot 300 men in a hotel. Balance went out the window. The crowd laughed loudly. Keanu smiled faintly. They had it coming. The audience hooped, Graham pointing to him. See? That's the killer underneath. You've been pretending to be Zen, but inside you're the guy from Wick. Keanu shook his head. You want to turn me into a character, Graham, but I'm not playing. I'm just here. The audience reacted with a hush. Graham nodded slowly. I see what's happening. You're trying to out-host me. You want to control the room. Keanu's expression didn't change, no. I want to stop playing. The audience stirred, and Graham smiled to the crowd nervously. Well, that's awkward because my whole career is playing. Keanu finally gave a small laugh. Then maybe that's why I called you dumb. The crowd gasped and laughed wildly, the callback landing like a punchline but with sting. Graham raising his eyebrows again. You're really not letting that go, are you? Keanu shrugged. I don't take it back. Graham let the moment hang, then leaned in. Well, you know what, Keanu? Maybe you're the dumb one. Who turns up on a comedy show and picks a fight with the host? The crowd roared with laughter, clapping, the balance briefly shifting back, but Keanu only nodded slightly fair. The tension was becoming a game of tug-of-war, both men sharp but controlled, and the audience couldn't look away. Graham smiled tightly. I think we'll need a drink break before this turns into John Wick 5, the talk show massacre. The audience erupted again, the band played a little tune, and the show cut to a commercial break, the unresolved tension hanging heavy, promising the final act would only escalate further. When the cameras came back from commercial, the atmosphere was thick, the audience buzzing, Graham sitting with his usual grin but his eyes sharper. Welcome back. We're still here with Keanu Reeves, who has spent the evening questioning my intelligence, my career, and possibly my sanity. The crowd laughed, Graham gestured grandly, and yet somehow I still love him. Keanu tilted his head and said calmly, maybe you just like the fight. Graham leaned in. Oh, I do, darling, I do, but normally I'm the one throwing the punches. The audience laughed again. Keanu gave a faint smile, and Graham pushed on. Now before we went to break we were debating whether I'm dumb or just misunderstood, and I thought, why not test that theory live? So Keanu, I want to ask you something that requires honesty. Keanu nodded. Okay. Graham raised his eyebrows. What do you really think of shows like mine? Don't give me the polite answer, give me Keanu truth. The audience gasped at the challenge. Keanu thought for a moment, then leaned closer. Honestly? They're distractions. People come here to laugh, to forget. But sometimes forgetting isn't good. Sometimes you need to remember. The crowd went quiet. Graham blinked. Well, that is the most depressing review of my show I've ever heard. I thought we were about wine and couches, not existential crisis. The audience laughed nervously. Graham tried to lighten it. See, this is why I drink. Keeps me from remembering too much. But Keanu didn't laugh. Instead he said softly, then maybe you're proving my point. The air shifted again, the audience unsure whether to laugh or hold their breath. Graham leaned back theatrically. Ladies and gentlemen, we've gone from comedy to therapy in under 5 minutes. I should charge you for this, Keanu. The band gave a light sting, but Keanu continued, it's not therapy, it's just asking why we laugh when maybe we should be listening. Graham's smile faltered for a moment, then he forced a chuckle. If we all listened, half my jokes wouldn't land. But fine, let me ask this. Are you saying you don't enjoy any of this? Keanu paused, the silence long, then finally answered, not enjoy. Endure. The audience gasped audibly. Graham's mouth dropped. Endure. Oh my God. Do you hear this? I invite him on my show, roll out the red carpet, give him free drinks, and he says he's enduring me. The crowd roared with laughter, Graham pointing at him dramatically. You, sir, are the rudest guest I've ever had. Keanu gave a tiny smile. You wanted the truth. Graham leaned in close. Yes, but not weaponized truth. The crowd clapped and cheered, the tension sharp but entertaining. Then Graham suddenly laughed, shaking his head. Do you know what, Keanu? You're impossible. And I kind of respect it. The audience clapped. Graham continued. Because even though you've called me dumb, torn my show apart, and nearly made the audience cry, you've also been completely brutally honest. And in this business, that's rare. Keanu finally smiled, more warmly than before. Thanks, Graham. The audience cheered louder, sensing a strange reconciliation. Graham raised his glass, to surviving Keanu Reeves. The audience hooped, Keanu lifted his water, and to Graham Norton, who isn't as dumb as he thinks. The crowd exploded with laughter and applause, Graham beaming. Finally. He admits it. The tension broke, laughter filled the room, and the night ended not with anger but with a strange mutual respect. The awkwardness turned into one of the most memorable episodes the show had ever seen, destined to be replayed, quoted, and debated for years to come.